Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Karthik Nagarajan, and today on this podcast by Nexdigm, we'll be talking about creating value in the finance world using analytics. The term big data is no longer confined to the realm of technology. Today, it is a business imperative, provides solutions to long-standing business challenges worldwide. Financial services companies are using big data to revolutionize their organizations, operations, and eventually the entire sector. To better understand how this financial world can use analytics and to reap benefits from it, today we have Mr. Neeraj Jain joining us on the podcast. Mr. Jain has over 3 decades of management experience in finance, supply chain, businesses across medical devices, consumer goods, and other diversified industries. He's worked with industry leaders like J&J, Unilever Asia in senior management positions. Currently on the board of Value Angels, Tata Trustee, and Tata Pension Management. It's a pleasure to have you with us, Mr. Neeraj. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Karthik. Look forward to.
Thank you, Neeraj. And today we will be asking a couple of questions to seek insights on the key critical topic that we're just talking about, and so that the audience will benefit from your wealth of experience. So here goes the first question for you, Neeraj. You've been on both the sides, right, from a business and finance. What are your views on the role of analytics from a CFO's point of view?
Yeah, I think let's start with looking at analytics and does it play a role only in CFO's life or everybody's life? So my view is that CFO could be the custodian of analytics, but it really affects everybody's life. Basically it helps leaders take objective decisions. Analytics provides that confidence to all leaders that the decisions are backed by logic and rationale. They are not blind or just by the gut. They're based on some insight, and they are driven actually by logic, and there is some sense in it. For finance, what does it do? What does analytics do? It converts the raw data into insights, and these insights then can be actioned upon. But raw data cannot be actioned upon. But when it starts making sense using analytics, it becomes insights. Now, breaking down financial statements into smaller segments, by business, by elements of cost or by element of revenue, and understanding the reasons behind, these using trends or forecasts, both sides, past and future, it starts making a lot of sense. Imagine FP&A without analytics tools. Now, you just can't do it. FP&A becomes much more meaningful, and whether it is budgeting, long-term forecasts, short-term forecasts, annual plans, rolling plans, this can be done only if you have some kind of analytics with you, using past trends and then based on that projecting the future. Of course, taking into account things like mergers, acquisitions. Let's just focus on M&A. M&A activities, how can one do without analyzing what company you're buying? It plays a huge role in my mind for a CFO to really go for an M&A activity. So analytics actually helps you assess the performance and also projects what's going to happen to the company we are buying or divesting for the buyer or the other side. So almost at every step, CFO will need the help of analytics to make more researched decisions than just going gut-based, as I said earlier. And we'll talk about it later, but there are a lot of things which a finance guy can do even outside the basic financial numbers.
Understood. One of the things I think you mentioned, right, really hard hitting, which is the insights, right? And we all know that CEOs also need holistic and insightful data to run their business decision, right? I mean, ultimately it's the data that has a trend and the business decision are based on these trends, right? What support can analytics provide to a CEO regarding the information that does not feature explicitly on a balance sheet? So what do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful question. People tend to stick to the balance sheet and P&L, but there is much more beyond that. And today, CFOs are expected to really get there. And I'll start with an example, based on my personal experience. Let's look at secondary sales information. A company sells to a distributor who sells to a retailer, and then the sale happens to the ultimate customer or consumer. Now, in the books, we'll only have numbers which are sale to distributors, but not what actually gets consumed or distributed to retailer or retailer to consumer. What really drives business is not a distributor sale, but the end sale, which is the consumer sale. And that is where, one can play a big role using analytics to really get the last sale information from various retailers and then plug it back in the SAP or ERP systems of the company, and then start comparing, how my sale is happening to distributor versus to consumer. Am I building inventories? Am I reducing inventories? Which SKU is working better? Which is not working better? Which area it is working better in the country? Which cities it is getting consumed more or getting consumed less? So this information is extremely powerful if we look at it objectively and with the help of analytics. The other example can be, decision to really make or buy or make where, in which plant. So cost comparisons across the world in various plants based on variable and fixed cost. That's not sitting in my balance sheet at an aggregate level. I need to get into the numbers and figure out where the data resides and then convert it into insights to see where I should be making more products where the variable cost is less. Headcount productivity, it doesn't sit in the balance sheet, but it's a very powerful tool to see where should I invest, which talent pool should I invest behind. Can I get the same scientist at a lower cost in China or India or Philippines versus in a European country or the US? And what is the productivity in terms of dollars for a headcount, contracted versus own headcount? So there are numerous examples. Cost drivers, unless you break down the cost drivers from financial books into elemental costing, raw materials, packaging costs, yield losses, how much yield can I get out of my process? Is it 98%, 99%, going up, going down, and the drivers behind that? All that is possible using analytics, which may not be on the books of account. It typically would be outside. And that's where it starts becoming strategic, no longer tactical. Otherwise, the data picked up and used remains tactical till we start converting it into insights and using it as a strategic tool for the CEO. And that's where I think CFO can really play a big role. Forecasting. I want to touch upon forecasting. It's not on my balance sheet today. My CEO often asked me, listen, I don't want your past numbers. I need to understand what will happen to my future numbers. And using your past numbers, data trends, and insights, plus what is happening to the business, which as a CFO, can you now start telling me the futuristic part of it? And that's where I can take more action. So it becomes more actionable if you talk about future, while past trends are just past trends.
No, very, very, very valid, Neeraj. There's one more thing that I kept hearing, right, in my journey and experience of managing data or even playing with the data is the single version of truth. What, in your perspective, is the meaning of single version of truth? We keep hearing this term, at least for the last 2 decades, right? What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, absolutely right. See, a lot of data is not published. Yeah, it's not in the books of accounts, nor it is outside the books of accounts. It is constructed. For example, let me take an example of medical device world. There's no AC Nielsen report coming on market shares or market sizing or market opportunity. It needs to be constructed. So, one option is that every salesperson or the sales team starts deciding in the way they understand it better what the share is and what the market size is. Or we actually internally devise some method in the madness and create a process by which only one set of people sitting in or tasked with this activity of putting numbers together, they are asked to really provide, let's say, call it one version of truth, which means only one set of people provide information which is not published otherwise. Now, this could be cost comparisons, could be headcount, it could be data on technical side of it, it could be supply chain data, it could be market share data, it could be market sizing data, all that coming from one team and which normally gets housed with analytics team. So analytics team not only does the number crunching based on the books of accounts, but goes much beyond and starts looking at data outside the books of accounts and then put the two together. For example, one way of doing market share across the world, all companies do the same way so that people don't fudge numbers and don't play with numbers, and then have the analytics team do it along with books of accounts, which means we have actuals coming from our books of accounts of our actual performance, sales and costs, and the market sizing outside it, and the market realities outside it, competition data outside it. Put the two together and publish it. It becomes very powerful. That's how I see it. One version of truth means only one set of people publishing data, not everybody publishing data the way it suits them.
No, absolutely. And we have seen this common challenges, right? If you're the CEO of an organization, you ask for the same headcount data from HR, and the same has to be validated with finance and other departments. Sometimes, never tally. So, which is why, analytics has I would say, a large role in terms of creating that one department, maybe getting that one source and one version of truth. And really, really nice to hear your views on that. I also heard you talk about in terms of the areas that it can impact, right? The cost management, the headcount strategy, plans, and so on. So how does analytics derive those insights and help in supporting decision making on these areas, Neeraj?
Yeah, let's take an example of an FMCG company where, if you remember some time ago, the crude price was going up dramatically. It went up to beyond $100. And, many years ago in 2010-11, it had gone up to $149, $150, $160. Now from $50 to $160, crude price goes up. How does it impact my cost of production? And what price hike should I be taking to neutralize my cost increase? Now, that can't come from any set of books of accounts or from anywhere other than somebody having a good hold over analytics. So we actually had devised a formula by which we could relate every dollar increase in the crude to what price increase I need to take per unit of that product to neutralize my oil price increase. It's a classic example of relating the two outside the financial books and using the data to provide an insight to the sales team to take a price hike on a regular basis. Could also be otherwise. Could also be, where should I bundle my products? How should I handle my products which are fast selling or not so fast selling? Where the impact is the impact higher on raw materials or on packaging? Am I using plastic? Am I using non-plastic? So ESG becomes important as well. So it actually throws a lot of insights around these areas. I mean, let's take ESG example. Today, carbon footprint, it's not going to come out of your financial books. Somebody needs to actually work on it. And the sooner we work on it, the better it is, because very soon somebody will nudge us and ask a question to us in the shareholders meeting or otherwise, that what's your carbon footprint? Is it negative, positive? Are you contributing? Are you adding to the problems which the global world is facing? So I think these analytics or this part of data actually can be extremely helpful for the CEO, for the whole board, though handled by the CFO. So what I'm trying to say is it goes much beyond cost. Cost is now become a small part of the total analytics. Important part, but a small part. Traditionally, we used cost for, which is a high margin, less margin, where should I put my money behind, where should I invest, which country, emerging, Western, etc. Now, that's given. Everybody's got there, I think. What will differentiate companies would be how do you use the balance, pricing, the supply chain, the productivity of headcount, the ESG part, the inflation, how do you bring it in, the futuristic projections. I think that is where the business people are looking at us as a group of finance individuals who can manage it.
Understood. From your experience, Neeraj, what will be your advice to the CFOs on the usage of analytics? How should they be viewing analytics as?
My experience, if I were to just pick up top 2 or 3, there are various, but I'll pick up top 2 or 3. I think the first thing is the mindset change. We've always been brought up in a mindset that this is data and data is everywhere, right? And using data as data is one thing, but using data and converting it into a strategic advantage is another thing. So my first advice would be that start treating analytics and data as a strategic tool and not just tactic. That's number one. Number 2, go beyond the financial numbers on the balance sheet and get into the market, get into the manufacturing locations, get into the other aspects of business and see where we can add value as analytics or as analytics team and start meeting the aspirations of the business leaders by providing them information or actionable information based on data. Yeah. So go beyond the financial numbers and balance sheet. Number 2. And number 3 would be, use the analytics to provide meaningful insights right from whether it is past trends or future projections, and then start breaking it down as detailed as possible, go as granular as possible, but also provide a high level executive summary and provide information which is detailed depending on at what level in the company we need this information, but start breaking it down as much as possible and start making sense of it and start giving actionable insights to the management or to the board. That's how I see the top 3 top 3 pieces of advice for CFOs, I would think.
No, thank you. And thank you, Neeraj, for sharing your valuable insights on how to create value in the finance world using analytics. I'm very sure that all our listeners will find this helpful. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. If you have any questions on this subject or you have some suggestions for future topics, please do write to us at think@nexdigm.com. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Karthik. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Neeraj.